Welcome back to Origami Snowman. My name is Matt. So, here's an interesting question. Why are, hi Bill. How you doing, buddy? You good? Love you. Okay. Nope, not in my face, please. Thanks. Why do we lump science fiction and fantasy together in the same genre? Sci-fi and fantasy, also called speculative fiction. Maybe that answers the question. Maybe because it's such a reach toward what may be under different circumstances, which really is that's the point of fiction in general, I guess. I don't know. Is it maybe because the same people like science fiction and fantasy? Maybe because it's all nerds? I don't know. But we do tend to lump those two categories together, and we assume that if you like one, you must like the other. Today, I thought I would highlight just a few authors who are proficient in both science fiction and fantasy. You've heard of all of these people, I imagine. None of them will surprise you, but I'm going to talk about them anyway because I need content. Ursula K. Le Guin. The Left Hand of Darkness. It's popular right now because of the subject matter. The character finds himself on a planet where the main life form, they are gender fluid. I didn't finish this one yet. This is one that I kind of come back to every now and then. Didn't grab me real hard, but here it is. She's a little more well-known for the Earthsea series, fantasy, big fantasy series. A Wizard of Earthsea, that's the first book. The Tombs of Atuan, and then The Farthest Shore are books 2 and 3 in the trilogy. And then there's a fourth book, the last book of Earthsea. And then there are 2 more after that. Sometimes, hey, you know what? You think that's my last bite of cake, but man, that cake was good. And so you go back for more bites of cake. Anyway, Ursula K. Le Guin, she's a great writer. She really is. Talked about this series in at least 2 other videos, but it's so good. And people never take me seriously. They think, oh, these are kids' books. They're not. I mean, they are. You can let kids read them, but they're really good. They're really good. The Chronicles of Narnia, 7 books. They're fantastic. They are fantasy in the purest sense. These characters go to another world, and there are talking animals, there are dwarves, there are nymphs and satyrs and centaurs and witches, and it's really fantastic. It's a magical series. It's really, really, really good. C.S. Lewis is an exceptional writer. Yeah, he's a theologian. Yeah, he's a philosopher. But that just adds so much meat to the meal. And if you're wanting something a little more adult, a little more mature, the Space Trilogy. It's not a great title for a series. It's only 3 books. It's Out of the Silent Planet, Paralandra, and That Hideous Strength. Out of the Silent Planet starts the series out. The main character is a guy named Elwyn Ransom. He is a linguist professor, and he's on a walking tour of England. And he ends up randomly, coincidentally, bumping into an old schoolmate of his, someone who he never really liked all that much. But this guy was a scientist, and he has created a rocket, and he essentially gets kidnapped and sent to Mars. It's not a spoiler alert. It happens pretty much right out of the gate. The rest of the book is him dealing with being on Mars. And yes, it's a little dated. The way he talks about space travel is really interesting, but highly recommend. Out of the Silent Planet is fantastic. Paralandra is the second book in the series, and it is fantastic. It's one of the better books dealing with faith and science fiction. It's essentially he gets taken to Venus, and Venus is in its early stages of creation. So they have an Adam, they have an Eve, and they're about to be faced with temptation. And Ransom is taken there to address the problem. He's sort of there to save the day, and he has no idea how he's supposed to do this. It's amazing. It's really interesting. That Hideous Strength, I don't know if you can tell. You see how much bigger this book is than these two? That one's heavy. That was a hard read. I don't remember a lot about it other than there is a group of scientists and they're trying to reanimate a corpse. Science fiction and fantasy from C.S. Lewis. Check him out. Roger Zelazny. Hoi. This is The Great Book of Amber. 10 books in a series, and they're all right here. Not the best way, I think, to tackle a series is by reading the encyclopedia, but fantasy, kind of a little bit of science fiction, depending on what world they're in. I don't quite understand all of what's happening. I've only read the first of the 10 books. It was intriguing, and I plan on reading more. But he's a little more well known for his throwaway pulp stuff. Road Marks, this one is about a hidden highway that travels between worlds. You see there's a pickup truck and a dragon, and there's all sorts of weird stuff that goes on. And then a Damnation Alley. These are books that get made into like really lame B movies that you catch on Saturday morning, like on some random channel as you're flipping through. You guys don't do that anymore. I forgot. I grew up in a different time entirely. Roger Zelazny, he writes really schlocky, kitschy kind of novels. I love them. They're great. They're little palate cleansers, you know? He wrote one called The Jack of Shadows that I had years ago, and it was really, really interesting, and it did sort of flipped between science fiction and fantasy. And I ended up giving the book away or trading it in, or I don't have it anymore. And I've been looking for it. The Jack of Shadows by Roger Zelazny, and I finally found it at my favorite bookstore here in Fort Wayne, Hyde Brothers, and they want $15 for it. I should have held on to it. Science fiction and fantasy sometimes blended together. Now, if you're looking for one exceptional novel that combines both science fiction and fantasy and romance and terror, I know, I keep going back to this guy. I keep singing his praises, but who couldn't? Brandon Sanderson, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Look at this cover. Oh, look at that. It's so just... Oh, there's so much going on. I just love it. I love it. Anyway, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, I won't even begin to try to explain the plot, except just know that there are two characters, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. And they find themselves somehow, they're in very different worlds. Like, you could not ask for two more different worlds, but they find themselves somehow linked and connected and drawn into each other's worlds, and they have very little control over that. But they are together in this in different ways, and they try to help each other, navigate through their respective worlds, all while trying to solve a problem that I cannot explain. So, it is part of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, which is like the Stormlight Archive and the Mistborn, but you do not have to know anything about the Cosmere going into this. The narrator is a recurring character in many other books. Just know that. So he'll say some things that you feel like, he thinks I know more than I do. True. But he talks like that in all the books. So just go into this knowing that you don't need to know anything, and that, yes, you are as dumb as you think. That is all for today. I would love to hear some of your favorite sci-fi and fantasy authors. I took them off the shelf. They're sitting right there. Wait right here. I'll be right back. It's going to be real quick. It's going to be like, I'm going to snap my fingers and I'll be right. It'll be like, did that look good or was that really bad editing? It's bad editing. Dune. I know I've badmouthed. Yeah, I know I ended the video already. Shush, just keep watching. You saw that how much time was left and you're like, he can't be done. He wasn't done. Dune by Frank Herbert. I know I've badmouthed it. Not crazy about this book, but it is definitely sci-fi and fantasy. Definitely sci-fi and fantasy. If you want to fight me, it's fine. I'm not going to fight. You'll just tell me I'm wrong and I'll drop it. Orson Scott Card, okay? So we've got Ender's Game. I cannot say enough about Ender's Game. This book is amazing. It's just about perfect. Read Ender's Game 100 times. But he also does stuff like the Seventh Son series, the Alvin Maker series, the first book being the Seventh Son. Seventh Son is really interesting. It's like a reimagining of American history, but this time, folk magic works. One more pitch. Read this novel, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. It's so good. It's so good. It made me cry more than once. So, and as you can see, I'm a very manly, burly, masculine man, and I do not feel emotions. I've heard of them. I don't believe they exist. You guys are amazing, wonderful, and I love you all to pieces, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.